Tatang Lama Medamia Jin on board the Jajin of the Javana on Jasamara to sit in the Vajuru, Tata Jeje, Tambe, Jenye, Dene, Dirishi, Jajin, and then yes, I did, but Jabo, the law, Chodo, the Jinogoi, the lobby, Naja, Zayon, the Ambe, Tani, Levatu, Law to Sonia. Namo Laye Kata Luta, Nishinga, Chubunta Mika, Namada, Kunji, Danamachita, Matam Jaka, Daki, Lo, Congregation, Java, Chonkawan, Bajem, Mebo, Java, Mebo, 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 Tade, Timmy, Tinjim, Java, Nishin, Dambo, Sanjam,
Mula Madhyama Karika by Masanagarjuna. Salutation verse.
Oh, yeah. That's
with those opening prayers. So whatever activities you are engaged in, you should have the correct motivation in the beginning and at the end of doing whatever you have to do. In terms of Dharma practice, you should dedicate the merits. So, for any practice of the spirituality and Dharma, it is important to have the good motivation to benefit others. And so, without that, your practice of the Dharma will not be a good practice of the Dharma. So it's very important in the beginning to have the correct motivation.
跟佛法有关的一些仪式也好，或者是交流也好，过程也好，它在一开始的动机、意乐，以及最后的回向，叫出后修恶事。这一个出跟后这两个过程是极为重要的。那其中，尤其是 在进行任何的一个传法之前，无论是传法者也好，听闻者也好，听法者也好，这个动机都是非常重要的。我们说是善是恶，它的一个标准是以是否具有善心，是否具有恶心来去定义的。所以具有善心将相应于善，这个行为将相应于善。同样的，如果你的动机是正确的， 闻法的动机是正确的话，你所闻的法才能够相应于法。因此，我们在进行这一个佛法交流或者是讲法的时候，无论是讲者也好，闻者也好，首先先要观察自己的意乐，并且把它摆到正确的位置。
哦呀，真正一张，安尼打的。 So
this time, when we have obtained this perfect human life, which is something, which is a good opportunity that we have by chance. And so we need to think of freeing all our mother sentient beings from suffering. And in order to help all these mother sentient beings to liberate them, oneself must practice the path that leads to enlightenment. And so, first, you should yourself engage in the practice of the triple process of listening to the teaching, and then reflecting on the teaching, and then meditating on the teaching. And so, the teaching that we are going to do comes from Master Tsongkhapa. And Master Tsongkhapa has written the stages of the path to enlightenment,
我们在
which is the song of the stages of the path to enlightenment,
我们应该这么想，
which
好不容易获得了上帝的人生
covers the entire
不应该
path to
在这
enlightenment
些轮回
that
的享受
is
当中，
taught
获得
in the
轮回的圆满
teaching of the
当中
Buddha.
我应该要尽自己最大的能力，为利一切如母有情，而来去完善自己，成就无上菩提。为此，我要知道成佛之道为何；为此，我要知道如何修持，如何走上这个成佛之道。因此，我要透过闻思修的结合，来去了解这个成佛之道如何行持。因此，我以这样一个清净的意乐来去接受宗喀巴大师所撰写的这一个菩提道次第摄颂，因为这一部论点里面，它包含了所有的一个成佛之道的要义，而且让我们很轻易的就能够去修持。所以我以这样一个清净的意乐来去闻法。供茶，
法本第15页，第供养法王。文殊师利永世与自在，智慧妙平充满至甘露。
So this is the blessing for the tea.
汤言至圣手白莲我供养。
你们
So please take your tea slowly. And while you take your tea, I will continue with the teaching. So, to give this teaching on this stages of the path to enlightenment, the concise text, the greatness of the teaching. In order to show the greatness of the teaching, there are four greatnesses that are mentioned in the Lamrim. So to show the authenticity of the teaching, you have the presentation of the author. So the authenticity of the teaching is that the teaching has originated from Shakyamuni Buddha, the lion of the Shakyas, and then the great Indian masters, and had come to this Master Tsongkhapa, the emanation of Master Manjushri. So he wrote the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment. And then the shorter version of that is, which leaves out the elaborate explanations. Then we have the intermediate length of the stages of the path to enlightenment. And then he summarized these books into a versified text, and that is the concise stages of the path to enlightenment. And so this is short, he uses very few words, but it is comprehensive regarding the entire stages of the path to enlightenment, and it is easy for us to practice as well.
故开示造者殊胜，令于教授起经种故开示其法殊胜，如何说文二种殊胜相应正法，以及第四，如何正理教授引导学徒之次第为四。所以在一开始讲到造者殊胜的时候，有说到了，从导师释迦牟尼佛那无有间断的传授到宗喀巴大师的这一个完整的传承。那如同广论的这一个四科判里面所说的，广论里面所要诠释的内容，对于一个想要行持菩提大道的一个修持者而言，是很轻易的能够就去融入于它，甚至去理解它。 所以更何况是这一个菩提道次第摄颂。菩提道次第摄颂的撰著的方式，它是一种记句、记文的方式而写下。虽然它的用词并没有那么的冗长，没有那么的繁琐，但是它用词不多，可是它所含摄的内容却包含了菩提道次第广论所要诠释的内容。所以对我们修持者而言，能够轻易的来去接受、学习这一部菩提道次第摄颂，对我们真的存在着巨大的利益。
So, to show the authenticity of the teaching, the author, the series of masters are given. And so the teaching starts with the salutation verses. So it begins with homage to the Buddha Supreme of the Shakya lineage, whose body is born from tens of millions of virtues and excellences, whose speech satisfies the hopes of infinite beings, whose mind sees all things as they are. So this show is homage to Shakya Muni Buddha, our founding teacher. And so he is the origin of the teaching of the Buddhist teaching that we have. So the homage says, your body is born from tens of millions of virtues and excellences. So excellent virtues have brought about such a body of a Buddha. So the body has the attributes of this 32 major and 80 minor signs and marks of an enlightened being. So this is the quality of the Buddha, the Buddha's body.
会有这种相关的一个顺序和次第。我们先翻到30页，无边福聚所生身，无量众生乐闻语，正观无尽所知义，释教尊王我敬礼。所以，如同照着书圣说到了，我们的教法的起源是来自导师释迦牟尼佛，所以在此呢，顶礼导师释迦牟尼佛。那顶礼之法为何呢？如何顶礼的呢？首先说到导师释迦牟尼佛的身功德，之后语功德、义功德。无边福聚所生身，有无量不可计数的福报所累积的32相好、8种随行好，具有这种身功德的导师世尊。
The next line says, whose speech satisfies the hopes of infinite beings. So the speech of the Buddha is qualified by 64 different attributes, and even when the Buddha just mentions this is impermanent in terms of the noble teachings, the Four Noble Teachings and so forth, when the audience hears him, they hear according to their own mental dispositions, and therefore the Buddha's speech is one that fulfills the hopes and desires of sentient beings. So even one single utterance of the Buddha is heard differently by different sentient beings. And therefore it says, whose speech satisfies the hopes of infinite beings.
那所以导师世尊所说的法呢，能够这边是译者补充的话，这边是讲乐闻语了，但是藏文直接翻译过的话，更像是满足你们的愿望的语，满足众生愿望的语。那因为满足的关系，所以乐吧，所以叫乐闻语。总之，无边众生乐闻语。那导师世尊的这个说法的语功德呢，包括60种的语功德。那其中一者呢，就是虽然导师世尊所说的是同样的一句话，可是弟子们却能够随顺着他们的根器，他们会听到相应于甚至于对他们有好处的话。 所以所说的话相同，可是众生的理解不同，而且产生的效应和利益也不同，所以它可以满足众生闻者众生的这一个期待和祈愿，无量众生乐闻语。
So that is the quality of the Buddha. And then with regard to the quality of mind, it says the Buddha sees everything as the mind of the Buddha sees all things as they are. So all things includes the Four Noble Truths, which can in turn be subsumed into the Two Truths. So everything that exists, that is the object of knowledge, is seen by the Buddha very clearly, without any obstruction in his sight, as if seeing amla fruit that is put on your palm.
它能够遍知一切万法，遍知所有的现象。那一切的万法，如同它掌中的这个优罗拉，就是安乐这种透明的这个安摩果以外，它可以非常的清楚的看到内外的透明，所以对他来讲，遍见万法，一切法都不是问题。So
the plant, the fruit that Gaden Tri Rinpoche mentions is called Philanthus amblica, also known as amblic, myrobalan. And then in the Tibetan, the final line says homage to the supreme, the chief amongst the Shakya lineage, Shakya clan or Shakya lineage.
在此，我以身语意诚心的、真诚的顶礼你。
And then the next verse says, homage to Maitreya and Manjushri, supreme disciples of the peerless masters. So whatever the Buddha has taught, these two masters also have taught them clearly. So they have passed down the two different strands of the teaching of the Buddha that are called the extensive path lineage and the profound view lineage. So Bodhisattva is assuming the responsibility of the Buddha's deeds by magically sending forth emanations in countless realms. So homage to Maitreya and Manjushri.
慈氏文殊我敬礼。无能媲美的无上的导师世尊的最圣子，也就是慈尊弥勒菩萨跟文殊菩萨最圣子，贺复如来事业诞，以身见行和广大行的这一个传承来去承担如来的事业。并且遍有佛刹利有情，以化现的方式到各个的有佛法的刹土去利一切有情。因此，我在此顶礼敬礼慈尊跟文殊。
안에 좀 된대지 안에 순 게라
So with regard to the speech of the Buddha, so there are different, two different strands of the path that the sentient beings, the disciples can practice. That is the profound view of the emptiness, which has come down from the Buddha to Manjushri and down the lineage of the masters. And then the extensive path lineage has been passed down from the Buddha to Maitreya, and then the series of lineage masters. Ornaments among the commentators who precisely elucidated the mother of the Buddhas, the depth of which is so difficult to fathom. You, who are widely famed throughout the three worlds, homage to Nagarjuna and Asanga. And so these two masters, Nagarjuna and Asanga, are the human beings through whom the profound view lineage and the extensive path lineage have come down to us.
是瞻不言，名称遍满三世间，龙猛无着或敬礼。也就是这一个极难了解的大般若，也就是讲到身见行空性的这一个内意，如意善事瞻不言。那如实的、善巧的去诠释，也是很南瞻部洲的这个庄严。像龙树菩萨来讲的话，名称遍满三世间。那这个身见行由文殊再传到龙树，那广大行是由慈氏再传到无着，所以在此说到龙猛，也就是龙树菩萨无着我敬礼。
哦呀，他天着为占巴当、强巴当这样来具备，三位南极神巴他加起为南极神巴牛我的名啊牛我的。
So these two systems of the path, the profound view lineage and the extensive path lineage, have come down to us through these two masters. And it has come down to Master Dipankara, so who practiced both these lineages. And so this fourth stanza is homage to Dipankara, the holder of this quintessential treasure of the instructions, consisting of the paths of profound view and vast deeds, the sublime lineages of the two great trailblazers, Nagarjuna and Asanga.
变色圆满无错谬，敬礼教藏阿底峡。
我呀。 And
from him, the teaching has come down in the lineage down to Master Tsongkhapa. And so the text says, you are the eyes to see all the teachings, the supreme gates to liberation for the fortunate ones. Moved by compassion, you elicited the Dharma with skillful means. To you, the spiritual masters, I pay homage. And so this is the homage to the lineage masters.
的善知识，那是以什么方式来去进行顶礼的呢？能是无边圣教言，趋向解脱最深道，哀悯权巧，勤开眼，敬礼一切善知识。在此顶礼中，华大师自己的善知识。
我呀。
So with this, we are done with the authenticity of the teaching through the presentation of the authors, the mentioning the authors. Next, the authenticity of the teaching, the greatness of the teaching, in order to engender respect for the teaching. Through Nagarjuna and Asanga, banners unto all humankind, ornaments amongst the wise ones of the world, was transmitted the sublime labyrinth, the stages of the path to enlightenment, fulfilling all aspirations of the sentient beings. So this teaching satisfies or fulfills all the wishes of sentient beings. It is the wish-fulfilling gem, and it's being the confluence of 1,000 streams of teachings. It is also an ocean of eloquent speech.
아니 예유공부 치라도 내봐 예지 준비 양산에 송와 오야 대지 개별 개별 저번에 간단 담바 도매 담배 담바 초 야.
那接下来呢是属于第二
And
章
so
金鱼教授起见中故开始起法殊胜的部分呢。
then the next lines, the next verses show that the teaching is without any contradiction. To realize that the teaching is without any contradictions, that they are personal advice to the disciples, and then that it saves one from the precipice of great vices. So through it, all doctrine are perceived as non-contradictory. All teachings arise as personal advice. The intent of the Buddha is swiftly realized, and one is protected from the precipice of great negativity.
Oh, yeah.
So the greatness of the teaching So therefore the wise and fortunate ones of India and Tibet have relied upon this supreme instruction, known as the stages of the path to the three beings, which wise person would not be greatly drawn to it. So even hearing or teaching this tradition just once, that embodies the essence of all the Buddha's words, gathers waves of merit equal to hearing or teaching all the doctrines of the Buddha. So this shows the
那接下来呢，我们可以看到通达圣教无相违，能知佛语皆教授，速得如来甚深意，极大罪恶自消亡。所以再次讲到这个四大科班，是故，所谓的四大科班就通达一切圣教无为殊胜，一切圣言现为教授殊胜，以及意为获得圣人名义殊胜，以及极大罪行自去消灭殊胜，就在这四句里面有说到。是故印藏诸大德，咸共依此圣教授，依此三世道次第，宁有智人不欢喜？所以在印度或藏人的这些学者大德们，都是透过这样一个教授而去获得成就的。所以如果你是有智慧的话，岂能对这个三世道不欢喜呢？那接下来我们可以翻到总摄佛经心藏义，能得一次善讲文，说定一切正法福，悉能摄尽因思维。那这一个三世道的一次的文思修，等同一次的对三藏经典的文思修，因为它总摄一切的要义，所以应该好好的去思维，善思维。
我要absen地方外边天天上最好的，当然了，国家为确实吃完。
So that shows the greatness of the teaching and how to engage in this teaching and practice, listening to the teaching and giving the teaching. So then next we begin with the importance of the relying on the spiritual masters, who is the root of our path. The root of all causes giving rise to happiness now and in the future is the practice of relying in thought and action upon the genuine spiritual guide who reveals the path. Seeing this, follow them even at the cost of your life and please them with the offering of practice of the teachings. A practitioner, myself, you who seek of liberation should do likewise. So all our fulfillment of our goals, temporary as well as the ultimate, depend on relying on an authentic spiritual, qualified spiritual master.
那接下来呢是讲到如何说文。
So that is what is shown in this verse 11 and 12.
那接下来我们可以看几句：所有现后诸福具，其能最初成就者，为由意乐极佳行，如法清净善知识。那以意乐来去亲近依止善知识和加行来去依止善知识之理。众志命缘终不舍，儒教修行法供养。那这个儒教奉行法供养就是供养最主要的一个供养，儒教修行法供养。至尊恩师如是修，欲解脱者如是行。
哦呀，真正应当，安尼他新业点住台上来呀。
So with regard to relying on the Guru, there are different structural outlines that are given. The reason to see the Lama as a Buddha and how to see the Lama as an enlightened being, and then relying on the positive effects of relying correctly and the negative effects or disadvantages of relying wrongly and so forth are also given in the teaching.
不这么做的话有何过患，有何过失等，说到了许多的这个科判。
我呀，这些说，那今天。And
then how to practice or train oneself, having relied on master. So training your mind in the practice. So here you have So with regard to that, we have the meditations on the preciousness of this human life and how difficult it is to obtain a human life and so forth. So with regard to the point of the precious human life, that it says, the text says, this birth of leisure is more precious than a wish-fulfilling gem, found but once. It shows that it is difficult to obtain such a human life from the point of view of the causes that bring about it, the causes that are difficult to create by us, and also through analogies. And it is shown how difficult it is to find such a precious human life. So found but once, it is as brief as a flash of lightning, hard to obtain, it is easily lost. So even just an ordinary, the least form of human life, you need to practice, create a cause by keeping or observing morality. And to have a perfect human life, you should, on top of morality, for observing morality, you should also do other practices.
才能够成为一般人生的因缘，更何况是暇满的人生呢？那更是需要不只是清净的戒体以外，还有清净的一个发愿，广大的发愿，还有像布施等这些善行作为助伴等众多的因缘聚合下，才有办法做到。所以，哪怕就是以暇满的一个承办的因缘，就以这个角度而言，也是难获得的。
我呀，我怎么讲话说个啦？
So it is difficult to gather the causes for higher rebirth. So it is said that those who pass from higher realms of existence to the lower ones is as numerous as the number of sand grains or particles, dust particles in the world. And it is the number of those who pass from lower realms to the higher realms of existence is as few as the number of dust particles collected on one's nail. So it is the difficulty of finding a precious human life with all qualities is said to be very difficult because of the difficulty in creating the causes, and also by its own nature it is said to be difficult. And then there are analogies that are used to show the difficulty of finding such a precious human life. So reflecting thus realize that the worldly activities are merely like the husk of a grain, and strive day and night to take its essence. The Venerable Guru, I, a practitioner, did that myself. You, O seeker of liberation, should do likewise.
至尊恩师如是修，故欲解脱者如是行。
哦呀，咱地里去了，俺咱就整个那嘛，都是来嘛，就老高玩人的，是吧？
Then we are dealing with the path common to the beings with small faculty or capacity. There's no certainty that after death, lower rebirth does not await, but it is certain that the three jewels have the power to protect you from these fears. So if you ask who has the qualities to protect us from the three lower realms of existence, they are the three jewels. So for us, because we have created so much negative actions, we are bound to. It is quite sure that we will go to the lower realms of existence. So who will be able to protect us, save us from such a lower unfortunate rebirth is the three jewels. The Buddha, by giving his teachings, and just as he has given the teaching, we should practice them and integrate them within our own selves and gain the experience and gain the series of experiences of the path culminating in Buddhahood. Therefore, take refuge in resolutely. Do not let the refuge instructions degenerate. So, with regard to taking refuge, we should have a very strong and firm sense of taking refuge in the three jewels. And by taking refuge, what we should do is to abstain from or avoid creating the negative actions, non-virtuous actions, and we should practice the virtuous actions by reflecting well on the positive and negative karmas and their results. So you should reflect on the shortcomings or the faults of negative actions and the positive qualities of positive actions. Rely on properly engaging in abandoning negativity and practicing virtues. I, a practitioner, did that myself. You, seekers of liberation, should do likewise.
我们行善是非常的困难，行恶呢是非常的简单，非常的自然。所以从我们现在的行为，我们就可以判断后世会投生到哪里，还真的说不准嘞。所以死后难保不堕落。那我们堕落到恶道的时候，有谁可以救护我们，让我们不会堕落到恶道呢？能救此位为三宝。所以在此说到皈依了，故应勤修正皈依，终不毁犯诸学处。那皈依的学处就是我们要好好的遵守因果。所谓遵守因果的意思呢，就是我们要知道说善因为何，由善因坚信由善因会感得乐果，坚信由恶因恶业的恶因会感得苦果。那透过这种因果的坚信，好好的去行善断恶。那这个呢，就是皈依最主要的学处，所以终不违反诸学处。那好好的去了解这一种善跟恶之间的一个差异，那尽可能的去行善断恶，这个就是皈依的学处。复因善事诸业果，如理取舍，乃能变。至尊是如是修，欲解脱者如是行。
아니 다 체딜에 챵바노바 저와 치마 판자래 챵바노바
Then one should turn feel dejected with the pleasures of this life as well as the worldly pleasures of the next lives as well, and so forth. And so we should begin our practice of the path to liberation and path to enlightenment, stages of the path to enlightenment, beginning with the paths that are common to the beings of small capacity. So, should you not find a suitable rebirth, it says, verse number 17, swift progress along the supreme path will not occur. So, without finding a suitable rebirth, you will not make great stride in the path to enlightenment. So therefore, having found this kind of precious human life with the endowments and the freedom and opportunities, one should cultivate its causes in their entirety. Of vital importance is purification, particularly in karmic defilements of the three doors. So, based on a pure observance of morality, you should cultivate these causes and purify the negativities. So it's very important. This is a very important and vital point. So tainted by stains of negativities and infractions. So one should purify the negativities by applying the four opponent powers. So opponent powers refer to the practice of reliance and then regret, and then determining to not repeat the negative actions.
因为不只是要获得暇满人生，我们更要去学习如何不要贪着今世的这一个圆满。那之后，我们还要去学习如何不要贪着于后世的圆满。
And then applying the antidote.
那这个解脱不是为了自己而已，我更要是为了利益。
And not repeating the same mistakes.
到次第要走上去的话，没有这个暇满人生的功夫，
So it says,
很难生生世世的。
particularly of the karmic defilements of three doors, tainted by stains of negativities and infractions, relying on the four powers regularly is thus essential. I, a practitioner, did that myself. You, seekers of liberation, should do likewise.
我们应该做什么呢？故应学此圆满因。那这个暇满工具，成佛的最好的工具，它的圆满因是什么呢？就是静修三业诸垢染。 那就是身语意，要做出任何的行为，都 很可能会在相应烦恼的情况下而去造出身语意的，所以这种身语意的三业的垢染都要净除。那净除的时候，什么最为重要的呢？忏悔业障由切要，故应恒时依四力，像是对自己现在所造的恶业产生极为强大的后悔心，以及我将来不会再次的犯错的这种防护心。那为此而去持咒观善心等直接的对治力等，在此有说到四力忏悔，至尊恩师如是修，故解脱者如是行。
我呀，俺说东安把没钱呢，你呢跟着什么叫做些？地方给说他到主巴了。So
as the Guru Puja says, so being frightened by this suffering, blazing suffering of the lower realms, you should take refuge in the three jewels. And as a precept of the taking refuge, one should avoid negative actions and take up the positive actions. So Lama Chöpa says that frightened by the blazing fire of suffering of the lower realms, one take refuge in the three jewels, and so forth.
아니 두대님이 삼라 마베나 타바트니 치신 메제신.
So if you do not, next, verse number 19, if you do not strive to contemplate the demerits of the truth of suffering, a genuine wish for liberation will not arise. If you do not contemplate the cause of suffering, the door to samsara, knowledge of cutting the root of samsara will not arise. So, this truth of suffering, true suffering, refers not to something external, but this the kind of the psychophysical aggregate that we have now is itself true suffering. So as long as you are not freed from this kind of situation, then you will have suffering. So based on this psychophysical aggregate, which is said to be the suffering in the Four Noble Truths, so the Four Noble Truths shows the faults of such a psychophysical aggregate, the true suffering. A genuine wish for liberation will not arise. So, without reflecting on this kind of bad circumstance that we are in, you will not want to overcome it. And therefore, you should try to overcome the cause of suffering, which is the negative actions which are rooted in our grasping at a self. And so without overcoming this clinging to or ego clinging, grasping, you will not be able to overcome all the causes and the results, causes of suffering and the result, which is suffering. And therefore it says knowledge of cutting the root of samsara will not arise. Generating renunciation, characterized by feeling of despondency towards samsara, as well as having knowledge of what binds you to samsara, is imperative. And so one should be aware of the suffering and the origin of suffering, which is the cause of suffering, rooted in the grasping at an independent self. So I, a yogi, did that myself, and you, seekers of liberation, should do likewise.
都是由业和烦恼所产生的，在不自主、无自主的情况下，被业和烦恼所产生的这个身语心，这个蕴体本身就是苦地了。 它就是真正的苦了，地就是真谛的意思，真正的苦，真正苦的来源。因为有了这一个业和烦恼所产生的身与心的话，这个运体的话，我们的痛苦是无有间断的，直到这一个业和烦恼所生的身运没有脱离之前，我们是不可能脱离痛苦的。所以在此说到了许多苦地的一些形象，像是无常、苦等的这种形象。那所以在此我们要去思维苦地的痛苦。如果我们想要去远离这一个真正的痛苦，这个苦地的话，我们该怎么做呢？所以若不思维即流转，苦因就是所谓的极地，所以我们要去思维极地，因为我们不想要痛苦的话，那就要从苦因的斩断开始下手。那我们要去了解到苦因是来自于哪里，所以我们要去了解为何无明是一切苦因的根本。为什么无明会去让我们产生贪嗔，由贪嗔让我们去造业，这个业会留下种子，那种子会留在唯我之上，那之后随着因缘之后，这一个习气会成熟，成熟之后呢，痛苦就会发生，就永无止境。所以我们要了解到这一切的苦因，我们不要的痛苦的最终来源，都是来自于我执，也是一种无明啊，无明无执，无明的我执啊，这是我们必须要去了解的。所以若不思维即流转，如果你不去思维这个极地所带来的过失，会让我们永无止境的流转的话，终不能断生死根。因此，为了能够升起厌离三有，而去想要去希求出离，所以因厌三有悉出离。所以我们该做什么呢？了达生死系缚因。我们应该知道说，这一个由业和烦恼所产生的这一个身心，这个运体，就所谓的苦运啊，它的因缘是什么呢？就是无明实执，无明我执。至尊是如是修，欲解脱者如是行。
我呀，来到你们为敬拜呢，我让你碰不的来到你们为敬拜的。
So we are bound, our mind-body constituent, this aggregate is bound in samsara. And what you seek is release from this bondage. And that is what liberation that we are seeking. So when you are thirsty, then you seek water. So likewise, when you see the suffering and nature of one's life, then you will, when you are aware and you acknowledge that, then you will seek liberation or freedom from suffering.
口渴的时候，你会厌离这种口渴所带来的那种不舒服嘛？你会产生一种厌恶口渴的感觉，所以你想要去喝水嘛？透过喝水来去减缓这种口渴的苦感。同样的道理，我们要知道说，被业和烦恼所操控的话是多么的痛苦，我们才有办法产生厌离心、出离心。
我呀，靠人就这些点把它靠个，那就爱讲讲，别他对他讲这些讲谈了，我现在我靠看个经把这些讲呢。
So it says that it's very important for one to understand what has bound one in this cycle of existence. So to have the awareness of what binds you in samsara is imperative.
最主要的，我们为什么会被业和烦恼绑得紧紧的、系缚的这个因缘是什么
？So this is the practice pertaining to beings of intermediate scope. So the text, the verse number 20 ends with this verse, which says, "I, a practitioner, have done this, did that myself, and you, liberation seekers, should do likewise." And next, the general practice of the persons of higher scope. Bodhichitta is the pillar of the path of the supreme vehicle. It is the foundation of all the great deeds of bodhisattvas. So once when you have trained your mind in the paths that are common to the beings of small and intermediate scopes, then you go on to do the practices, the practice of the path of the great scope. Beings of the great scope, high scope. So, the most important thing is to understand the Four Noble Truths. The Four Truths. So, of course, even to the non-Buddhists, they have the practice of taking refuge from their own point of view. But taking refuge in the three jewels by understanding the workings of the Four Noble Truths is unique to Buddhists. So by being scared or frightened by this fiery samsara, you take refuge in the three jewels. So if you do not fear the suffering in the lower realms of existence, then you will not have a true sense of renunciation, the will to freedom from the suffering. So, however much you may seek the pleasures of this life and samsara, there's no way you can feel satisfied at all. And so you will there's no end to desire in the pleasures of samsara. But by experiencing these pleasures of samsara, you will not have true happiness. It only leads to suffering.
但是思维是圣地，了解到我们的不想要的痛苦到底它的属性是什么？那以佛教的说法，就是因为被业和烦恼所操控，所以我们是痛苦的。在业和烦恼所操控的情况下，我们会无自主的去取有这些的运体，这个是痛苦的。所以透过苦地、极地、四圣地的这一个思维，后来再去产生皈依三宝的这个皈依，这才是佛教的不共的皈依啊。如果我们现在都不知道现有的世间的一个圆满它是痛苦的话，我们不可能对它产生畏惧嘛。如果你不对此而产生畏惧的话，你就不会因由四圣谛而产生皈依了。所以痛苦的这个思维非常的重要。所以我们应该要多多去想说，世间上到底哪里有什么是属于真正的安乐？世间最圆满，我们世人认为最圆满的东西，它真的如同我们想象般的、预期般的，它真的是这么永恒的安乐吗？其实不然。因为我们世间所谓的最好的安乐，你再怎么样享用它的话，第一个你不会满足，有一要十，有十要百；第二个，你真的长时间的去享用它的时候，它慢慢就会带来很多的副作用，变成苦性。所以到底世间哪有什么安乐可言？最终这一切都是痛苦。所以我们要反复的去思维这方面的内容。
我呀，真正也到。So
this contaminated psychophysical aggregate, by reflecting on it, you should feel a great sense of renunciation from it. Otherwise, your wish or the sense of wishing to reach liberation is mere words, will be mere words. So if you do not reflect on the causes or the origin of suffering, then you will not be able to seek the true path leading to liberation from some cycle of existence. You will fall into the wrong paths. So without knowing the suffering and its origin, you will not be able to reach liberation true liberation from them.
获得的灭道二谛就更不用说了，遑论这一个灭道二谛是正确的。
我呀，我第一天就讲了，等着越大等你，大等你，我
So,
让你就东亚3年。
with reflecting on suffering that you have yourself, and then having a true sense of the determination to be free from suffering, once you have that true sense of renunciation within yourself, with regard to your own life, then you will have the sense of compassion for the suffering other sentient beings. So the text says, generating renunciation characterized by feeling of responsibility towards samsara, as well as having awareness of what binds you to samsara is imperative, and so forth. And then bodhicitta, verse number 21. Bodhicitta, the central pillar of the path of Supreme Vehicle, is the foundation of all the great deeds of bodhisattvas. So bodhicitta is like a gold-making elixir of the two collections. And so if you have the base of a metal, then you can turn that into gold through this elixir. So likewise, bodhicitta transforms this life of samsaric life into an excellent attainment. So it is a treasure trove of merit for collecting the vast accumulation of virtues. Knowing this, heroic bodhisattvas cherish this precious mind as their supreme practice. So the bodhicitta is that wish or a main mind that is complemented by the true aspirations. Aspiration for the other sentient beings, to help other sentient beings, which is wishing the other sentient beings to be free from suffering and its causes and leading them to the state of freedom from suffering and so forth. And then having that aspiration for oneself, which is to say that first you should, without attaining Buddhahood by yourself, then you will not be able to help others effortlessly, and therefore you aspire to become a Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. And therefore the definition of bodhicitta is this main mind characterized with the two aspirations, wishing, which is to say, to help all sentient beings. In order to do that, to have the aspiration to reach Buddhahood for yourself.
菩萨如是善了知，以菩提心为心要。菩萨知道，为了利益众生，我必须要成就无上菩提。因此，我
So the bodhicitta, or the altruistic spirit of enlightenment, is this main mind which wishes to reach complete enlightenment for the benefit of all other sentient beings.
所以以这个利他之心，因此我要完善自己。为了能够帮助你们，我要完善自己。以什么方式完善自己呢？成就无上菩提的方式完善自己。所以希求无上菩提，所希求的无上菩提又具二力圆满、自力圆满和他力圆满。所以你要圆满他人之前，你首先要把自己搞定啊！你自己还没搞定，你怎么帮助他人呢？所以你要把自己搞定的话，你就要完善自己。所以要让自力圆滿。
And therefore, in Bodhisattvacharya avatars, it is just as there is wish to go and actual going on the path. You should know the difference between aspiring and the engaging bodhichitta. So first you have aspiring bodhichitta is like wishing to go, to have the wish to go somewhere. But the venturing bodhicitta, engaging bodhicitta, is similar to actually taking steps to reach that destination. And so the wish to reach the complete, perfect enlightenment is that wish to, like that wish to go somewhere. And then when you actually venture upon the path to enlightenment, it is like taking steps to reach your destination. By taking steps to reach your destination, that is enlightenment, then you are engaging in the venturing bodhicitta. So just as the difference is understood between the wish to go and actually going, likewise, you should know the difference between the engaging and the venturing bodhicitta. So the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, Guide to a Bodhisattva Way of Life, says these lines. Just as you see the difference between the wish to go and actual going, likewise, the wise ones should know the difference between the aspiring and the venturing or engaging bodhicittas.
那受戒起之后的菩提心就是行心了，就如同正在行走的人般。所以智者应当了知愿心和行心两者之间的差异。
我第一站到攀越上去没见过，是吧？偏不三不上去，这上去去了去完了。
So merely wishing to help sentient beings, if that mere wish or desire to help others is greater than making offerings to the Buddhas, so worshipping or making offerings to the Buddhas. So if that mere wish to reach enlightenment is greater than worshipping all the Buddhas, then what need is there to say the greatness of the venturing bodhicitta?
你供养无边不可计数的佛净土的功德还要来得大，更何况是你真正的落实这种的想法于生活，你产生行心的话，其功德更是不可思议，更是殊胜。
我呀，是不是女生那边才这样，各级才能进把切把了，安尼，告诉给我切把也是过去用的事。 So
merely giving some food to few sentient beings. So in the world, it is considered a wholesome action. If that is the case, the Bodhisattva Charyavatara says this. But for the sake of innumerable sentient beings, so, in other words, what need is there to mention the merit or the positive qualities or consequences of the wish to benefit infinite number of sentient beings, leading them to the goal of enlightenment. So with regard to bodhicitta, we should reflect on it 3 times a day and 3 times in the evenings. And if you have received highest yoga tantra initiations, for example, you do the 6-session Guru Yoga practice, 6-session Guru Yoga. So in that practice, you do the reflection on the bodhichitta 3 times in the daytime and 3 times in the night. And so we have these lines which say, I take refuge in the 3 jewels, I confess all misdeeds, I rejoice in the virtues of all beings, and I take to heart the Buddha's enlightenment, and then I take refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly, in order to fulfill the interests of oneself and others. I shall generate bodhichitta, and
昼30、夜30、昼夜60都要去思维菩提心的相关的仪轨文，透过这些仪轨文的念诵，边思维菩提心。
So I seek refuge until I'm enlightened. To fulfill the interests of oneself and others, I shall generate the mind of awakening. Having generated the mind of highest awakening, I shall invite all sentient beings as my guests, and so forth. So bodhicitta is that factor which put an end to the death of sentient beings.
而且路菩萨行论又说到了灭死生甘露，即此菩提心；除贫无尽藏，即此菩提心；疗愈最胜药，亦此菩提心。彼为博士图，菩提心如同博士图，众生修气数，复是出古桥，度众离恶趣。彼是除热恼，东升新明月。所以在此路菩萨行论也说到了菩提心的种种的功德和殊胜。
我呀，我当年我做的，那强就三了嘛，突然一张，虽然他们现在把也做人还是决心，做我他们家按照了做的是决定，他们就我们说吧，那没得用过穷啊，我一张。
So these benefits of bodhicitta that are mentioned in Bodhisattva Charyavatara. So it is the supreme medicine that cures the world's disease. It is the evergreen tree that shelters all beings wandering tired on the roads of life. It is the universal bridge that frees beings from wretched lives. It is the rising moon of mind that dispels the torment of addiction, of affective emotions. It is the great sun that burns away the mighty ignorance of the world. It is the quintessential butter from the churning of the milk of Dharma for all guests traveling on the path of life who wish to experience true happiness, the spirit who will satisfy them with joy and exalt them in the highest bliss. So bodhicitta has these great benefits, and therefore it is very important for us to make it our essential practice, main practice in our day-to-day life.
菩萨们、智者们已知道，在诸多的修持当中，最主要的核心的精髓是菩提心，所以他们会以菩提心作为心药。
So it is the supreme elixir that overcomes the lord of death. It is an inexhaustible treasure that illuminates all poverty in the world. So of course you may wish to attain higher rebirths, but even there you have suffering, and therefore you should have this sense of liberation from wishing to become liberated from this samsara as a whole. And so after having generated or cultivated true sense of renunciation for oneself, then you should extend that wish for liberation to other sentient beings
因此，暇满的这个人生，我们必须要确保能够承办。
as well. And therefore, here comes the practice of bodhichitta, wishing to become enlightened for the benefit of all sentient beings.
紧紧的掌控，我们没有自由，我们无法自主，因此我要获得解脱，这是第2个阶段。那第3个阶段就是说，如同我厌离业和烦恼的操控般，其他的众生也是如此啊。因此，我要把这种的思维转移到他人的身上，为了能够利益他们，我要完善自己。因此，我要成就无上菩提，分这3大阶段。今天先讲到这里，谢谢大家。
So for today, we'll stop here.
主回向。文殊师利勇猛智，普贤慧行亦复然。我今回向诸善根，随彼一切常修学。三世诸佛所称叹，如是最胜诸大愿。我今回向诸善根，未得普贤殊胜行。妙香遍土花散之大地，须弥四周日月所庄严。尽如佛土我乐尽供养，愿诸有情共享此净土。伊当咕噜那那面则拉嘎尼。
So there is a mandala offering. So Gaden Tri Rinpoche is wondering if we have some prayers to say.
大众请起立，一切的佛切。